There's something powerful about a woman who knows what she wants in life and refuses to abandon it just because she's fallen for someone. One of the biggest mistakes I see so many women make is thinking that in order to be loved, they need to shrink their dreams or press pause on their ambitions. And let's be honest, it doesn't always happen because a man tells her to do it. Sometimes it happens quietly, almost unconsciously. She meets someone she's excited, she wants to spend more time with him, and little by little she starts rearranging her life to make him the center of her universe. At first it feels like devotion, like love. But what she doesn't realize is that every time she says yes to him at the expense of her own dreams, she's slowly saying no to herself. The truth is, a high-value woman never abandons her own dreams for a man. No matter how much she cares for him, she can love deeply and still protect her individuality. She knows that a healthy relationship isn't about giving up who you are to fit into someone else's story. It's about writing two stories side by side and seeing how beautifully they align. If your dream is to start your own business, travel the world, write a book, or even just pursue a passion that lights you up, that dream matters just as much after you meet him as it did before. And the right man will never ask you to give it up. In fact, the right man will admire you for chasing it. Here's the danger: when you abandon your dreams at first, he may enjoy the attention, the fact that you're always available, always putting him first. But over time, it starts to erode respect. He stops seeing you as the woman who inspired him, who had her own fire and her own drive, and instead sees you as someone who lives through his goals. And when that happens, attraction fades, respect fades. Because what drew him to you in the first place was your light, your independence, your sense of purpose. When you give that up, you stop being the person he fell for. I know some women worry, but if I don't make him my priority, won't he feel neglected? Won't he think I don't care? No. What actually makes a man feel inspired and drawn to you long term is watching you live your life with passion. When he sees that you can love him fully and still go after what matters to you, it makes him want to rise to your level. It creates admiration. It makes him proud to stand beside you, not in front of you. And the beautiful thing is, when you continue to honor your dreams, you invite him to honor his too. That's what partnership is. Two people pushing each other forward, not one person carrying the other. Think about it. If you give up your dreams for a man and the relationship doesn't work out, what are you left with? A life that no longer feels like yours. That's why it's so important to keep your identity intact, to protect the things that bring you joy outside of love. A high-value woman doesn't just bring affection to a relationship. She brings energy, passion, experiences, ideas, and all the richness of a full life. And that richness comes from refusing to put her own purpose on the back burner. The man who is truly worthy of you will never want you to shrink. He will never want you to trade your fire for his comfort. He will look at you chasing your goals and think, that's the woman I'm proud to be with. And if he doesn't, then he's not your guy. Because love should never ask you to abandon yourself. Another thing a high-value woman never does is chase validation. And this is a big one because validation feels addictive. When a man compliments you, when he gives you attention, when he notices you, it feels amazing. But the moment you start depending on it, you give away your power. A woman who is truly confident in her worth doesn't live her life waiting for his approval, because she knows her value isn't defined by whether he texts back, whether he says, "You're beautiful," today, or whether he seems impressed by her choices. She already knows she's enough, with or without that acknowledgement. The problem is, so many women confuse affection with validation. They think, if he praises me, I must be lovable. If he ignores me, I must have done something wrong. That mindset can create a dangerous cycle where you constantly adjust your behavior just to get that little hit of attention again. You text him more than you wanted to. You hold back your opinions to avoid conflict. You laugh at jokes that don't even make you smile, all because you want him to keep seeing you as desirable. But here's the truth. When you live like that, you stop being yourself. And the most attractive thing about you was always your authentic self. A high-value woman understands that validation is nice, but it's not the fuel she runs on. She doesn't wake up every morning thinking, "What do I need to do today to keep him interested?" Instead, she asks, "What do I need to do today to honor myself?" And because she lives from that place, she shows up more magnetic, more confident, more attractive without even trying. Men notice women who don't need their approval because it signals strength. It says, "I like you, but my happiness doesn't depend on you liking me back." There's something irresistible about that kind of energy. Think about the last time you met someone who just seemed comfortable in their own skin. They didn't need to convince you of anything. They didn't try too hard, they just radiated self-assurance. That's the kind of presence a man remembers. That's the kind of presence that makes him lean in. And ironically, the more you chase his validation, the less likely you are to get it, because it makes you appear needy instead of confident. But when you stop chasing, when you already know you're valuable, that's when his respect deepens. Now, this doesn't mean a high-value woman rejects kindness or affection. She appreciates compliments, but she enjoys recognition, but she doesn't depend on them. There's a difference between enjoying something and needing it to feel complete. She smiles when he says, "You're beautiful," but she doesn't crumble if he forgets. She's still beautiful regardless. She's still enough regardless, and that quiet knowing is what keeps her grounded. The danger in chasing validation is that it places your self-worth in someone else's hands. If he's attentive, you feel amazing. If he's distant, you feel worthless. That kind of emotional roller coaster is exhausting, and it's not love, it's dependency. A high-value woman steps off that ride. She creates her own foundation of confidence that no one can take away. And here's the secret: when you no longer need his validation, you actually become more open to receiving love in a healthy way. Because now, when a man gives you attention, you're not clinging to it like it's oxygen. You're simply enjoying it as a bonus to the life you already love. That balance is what makes relationships thrive. So the next time you catch yourself waiting for him to notice you, remind yourself that you were valuable long before he ever came along. The right man will see that value, but even if he doesn't, it doesn't change who you are. Because a woman who knows her worth never begs for validation. She already carries it within her. One of the clearest marks of a high-value woman is that she never tolerates disrespect. It doesn't matter how handsome he is, how charming he can be, or how much she thinks she feels for him. If he crosses the line of basic respect, she makes it clear that it's unacceptable. And this is where so many women get caught, because disrespect doesn't always show up loudly. Sometimes it sneaks in quietly, in small moments. Maybe it's a sarcastic comment he makes in front of friends, a text he forgets to reply to for days, or the way he dismisses her feelings when she tries to express them. Those moments don't seem huge at first, but if you excuse them, if you let them slide, they become the foundation of the relationship. Disrespect is like a crack in the wall. You can ignore it for a while, but sooner or later it spreads until the whole thing comes crashing down. A high-value woman doesn't wait for it to spread. She recognizes that the way someone treats her today is the best predictor of how they'll treat her tomorrow. If she allows him to disregard her boundaries once, he learns it's safe to do it again. But when she makes it clear early on that she won't accept being spoken to harshly, dismissed, or undervalued, she sets the tone for the entire relationship. Now, some people hear this and think it means she's confrontational or that she doesn't forgive mistakes. That's not the case at all. A high-value woman has compassion. She understands that people mess up, that we all say things in frustration sometimes, or fail to meet expectations perfectly. But there's a difference between imperfection and a pattern of disregard. The first can be forgiven, the second cannot. The challenge many women face is that they confuse love with tolerance. They think, if I really love him, I should accept him as he is, flaws and all. And yes, you should accept someone's humanity, their quirks, their imperfections. But disrespect is not a quirk, it's a violation. It erodes trust, it chips away at self-esteem, and it poisons love. Real love cannot survive in an atmosphere of disrespect because love and contempt cannot live side by side. What's powerful is that when a woman refuses to tolerate disrespect, she communicates something without even saying it. I know my worth. That kind of energy not only protects her, it also raises the standard for how others interact with her. The man who truly values her won't feel threatened by her boundaries. He'll feel inspired by them. He'll respect her more because deep down, people respect those who respect themselves. And the man who resists those boundaries, who argues, who mocks, or belittles her for holding them, that's the man who was never capable of giving her the relationship she deserves anyway. Think about it this way: when you set the bar for how people treat you, you filter out the wrong ones faster. You save yourself months or even years of heartache because instead of bending to make a disrespectful man comfortable, you stand firm and say, this is not enough for me. And that clarity is what creates space for the right man to come into your life. At the end of the day, respect isn't negotiable. It's not something you earn over time. It's the baseline for even beginning a relationship. A high-value woman knows that, which is why she doesn't explain, beg, or justify why she deserves it. She simply lives in a way that demands it. And if a man can't give it, she walks. Not because she doesn't care, but because she cares about herself too much to stay where she isn't valued. That's the difference between someone who loses herself in love and someone who grows stronger through it. A high-value woman never trades her dignity for a relationship because she knows that any love worth keeping will never ask her to. One of the most dangerous traps a woman can fall into is making excuses for a man's bad behavior. It often starts innocently. He cancels plans at the last minute, and you tell yourself, he must be busy. He raises his voice when he's frustrated and you think he just had a bad day. He flirts a little too openly with someone else and you convince yourself he doesn't really mean it. That's just his personality. And slowly, without even realizing it, you start writing a story that protects him from accountability but leaves you carrying all the discomfort. A high-value woman doesn't do that. She sees actions for what they are, not for what she wishes they could mean. She understands that when a man shows her a pattern of behavior, it's not an accident, it's a choice. Excusing it doesn't make it go away, it only teaches him that she'll accept less than she deserves. And the more excuses you make, the more permission you give. What starts as tolerating lateness can become tolerating lies. What begins with overlooking one harsh word can end with accepting a relationship that slowly breaks you down. It's important to understand that making excuses often comes from a good place. Women do it because they're empathetic, because they want to see the best in people, because they're invested in the potential of who someone could be. But potential doesn't create a relationship, patterns do. You can fall in love with a man's charm, his humor, even his ambition. But if his consistent actions show disregard, disrespect, or dishonesty, then that is who he really is right now. Hoping he'll change, imagining how great it will be once he matures, or convincing yourself that your love can fix him. Those are just ways of delaying the truth. A high-value woman has the courage to see clearly. She says to herself, I don't care how much chemistry there is, I don't care how much history we have. If the way he treats me doesn't match the love I deserve, I won't pretend otherwise. That's strength. That's self-respect. And it doesn't mean she's cold or unforgiving. It means she values reality over fantasy. Think about it. Every time you excuse bad behavior, you're sending yourself the message, that your needs matter less than his moods. And if you keep doing that, you'll start to believe it. Your self-esteem takes the hit, not his. But when you stop making excuses, when you say, "This doesn't work for me," and I won't rationalize it away, you protect not only your dignity, but also your heart, because no relationship built on excuses will ever feel safe. And here's the truth. The man who's capable of loving you deeply doesn't need your excuses. He doesn't need you to cover for him or to rewrite his choices into softer versions. He takes responsibility for his actions. He apologizes when he's wrong. He works on himself because he values the relationship. That's the difference between someone who grows with you and someone who drains you. Love isn't about lowering the bar so someone can meet it. Love is about keeping the bar where it belongs and waiting for the person who wants to rise to it. A high-value woman doesn't say, "He's doing his best, so I'll accept less than I deserve." She says, "If he's not willing to step up, then I'll step away." And that decision, though it may be painful in the moment, is what preserves her future happiness. At the end of the day, excusing bad behavior doesn't protect love. It kills it slowly. Respect, trust, and accountability are the foundation of any strong relationship. And when those are missing, no amount of rationalizing can replace them. A high-value woman knows this, which is why she chooses honesty over excuses, reality over fantasy, and self-worth over temporary comfort. One of the clearest differences between a woman who values herself and one who forgets her worth is how much effort she pours into a man who's not matching her. A high-value woman never gives her all to someone who's giving the bare minimum. She knows that love is not about how much you can prove yourself or how hard you can work to earn someone's affection. Love is about reciprocity. It's about two people showing up with energy, with effort, with consistency. And if she's the only one carrying the weight, she knows something is off balance. The truth is, when you overinvest in someone who underinvests in you, you create a dangerous dynamic. You start working overtime to fill the gaps. You call more, you plan more, you sacrifice more, and in the process, you train him to give less. Because why should he give more if you're willing to do all the heavy lifting? That's how women end up exhausted in relationships that never actually meet their needs. They think, if I just love harder, if I just give more, if I'm endlessly patient, he'll eventually wake up and realize I'm the one. But that day never comes because he's already comfortable. He doesn't have to rise to the occasion when you're carrying the relationship for both of you. A high-value woman understands that effort is the truest language of love. Words are easy, promises are easy, but consistent actions, that's what tells you who someone really is. If he says he cares but doesn't show up when you need him, if he promises change but never follows through, if he enjoys the benefits of your loyalty without giving the same in return, then she knows she's not in a relationship, she's in a one-sided arrangement. And she doesn't settle for that because she knows her time, her energy, and her heart are too precious to waste. It's not about expecting perfection. No one can give 100% all the time. Life has seasons, people have struggles, and sometimes one partner needs to carry a little more while the other finds their footing. But that's very different from a pattern of minimal effort. There's a difference between supporting someone in a hard season and carrying someone who's simply not willing to meet you halfway. A high-value woman knows the difference, and she refuses to confuse laziness for struggle or indifference for difficulty. This is why she never overcompensates for a man who doesn't try. She doesn't text 10 times when he ignores her once. She doesn't keep giving chances when his behavior stays the same. She doesn't cook clean, sacrifice, and rearrange her life for someone who won't even show basic commitment. She knows that the more you give to the wrong person, the less you have left for the right one. And she'd rather save that energy for a man who actually values it, who meets her with equal passion, equal consistency, equal love. What's powerful is that when you stop giving your all to someone who only gives the bare minimum. You naturally raise the standard for the kind of love you receive. You show yourself that you will not reward neglect, that your love is not something anyone can just coast on. And that sends a powerful message to any man in your life. If you want to be with her, you have to show up fully, not perfectly, but fully. At the end of the day, love is not proven by how much you can endure while someone else coasts. Love is proven by the way two people choose each other daily through actions. A high-value woman knows she doesn't need to give to be worthy of love. She knows her worth already, which is why she saves her deepest love for someone who has shown he's willing to give just as much in return. One of the most beautiful yet dangerous things about love is how it has the power to make us feel completely alive, yet sometimes completely blind. When you fall in love, it's easy to get swept away in the chemistry, the excitement, the late-night conversations, and the way being with him makes the world feel brighter. But a high-value woman never lets that excitement make her forget her worth. She understands that love should add to her life, not erase her identity. So many women, without realizing it, let love make them lose themselves. They meet a man, they feel that spark, and suddenly all the routines and habits that once kept them grounded start to fade. They spend less time with their friends, they stop investing in their passions, they rearrange their lives completely around him. And at first, it feels romantic, it feels like devotion, but over time it turns into dependence, and that's when problems begin. Because if your entire sense of worth comes from his attention, then the moment he pulls away, your world collapses. A high-value woman never allows herself to fall into that trap. She knows that her worth existed long before love, and it will exist long after. She can give her heart fully, she can be affectionate, supportive, and loyal, but she never trades her self-respect in the process. When she loves, she doesn't disappear, she expands. She becomes even more of herself, not less. It's important to remember that the right man doesn't want you to forget your worth. He doesn't want you to stop shining so that he can shine brighter. The right man is drawn to the woman who has her own light, who walks into the room with confidence, who brings her full self to the relationship. And that full self only exists when you continue to honor your value even after falling for him. When you forget your worth, you start tolerating things you never would have accepted before. You overlook the unanswered calls, the mixed signals, the moments of neglect. You tell yourself, it's okay, love is supposed to be hard, when really you're just lowering your standards out of fear of losing him. But the reality is, forgetting your worth doesn't make someone love you more. It makes them respect you less. A high-value woman doesn't cling to love out of fear. She chooses it from a place of abundance. She knows that if this relationship ends, she will still be whole. She will still be valuable. She will still be enough. And because she knows that, she's never tempted to beg, chase, or compromise her dignity just to keep someone. She understands that real love doesn't require self-betrayal. There's something incredibly attractive about a woman who can be deeply in love and still deeply in touch with herself. A woman who says, I adore you, but I also adore me. That balance is what makes her powerful, because then her love is a gift, not a trade. It's something she gives freely, not something she bargains with to get validation. And that's the kind of love that inspires a man, the kind that makes him step up, because he knows he's with a woman who values herself too much to settle for less. At the end of the day, falling in love should make your world bigger, not smaller. It should give you more reasons to be proud of who you are, not fewer. A high-value woman knows this, which is why she never forgets her worth, no matter how deeply she falls. Because the truth is, the most magnetic thing about her isn't just her love. It's the fact that she remembers who she is while giving it.